Morning, people. Oh, we've got people appearing. Good to see some attendees. As usual with these things, we'll just wait for a minute or so and just make sure that we've got everybody in the room who's attending. Hello, folks. Thanks for joining. We're just going to wait for another couple of minutes just to make sure we've got everybody. And thank you for joining on such a warm day if you're here. In the UK, it's hot for us. So I'm going to give it one more minute because there's still people popping in. Get yourself comfortable, get yourself a drink, relax. Marine citizenship is going very well this morning. I can hear the ocean outside the window, it's great. Oh, thanks for that message, Carlia. That's a nice message. Right, shall we get going? So welcome to our very exciting Think Ocean Literacy Week. So we had a webinar on Tuesday that looked at the results of the survey that we did with DEFRA, finding out how ocean literate we might be in England and Wales. We shared our Think Ocean challenge at the beginning of the week, and now today I'm really happy to be able to introduce you to a colleague and good friend, Pam Buchan, who has done, in my opinion, one of the most amazing pieces of research in this field for a long time, and it's really impacted what we do here at the Ocean Conservation Trust. So what we're going to do is, in a moment, Pam's going to take over and present to you her findings. Then I'll tell you a little bit about how we're perhaps operationalising some of those findings at the Ocean Conservation Trust, and then we'll take questions and answers. I'll introduce myself properly when I do my little talky bit in a minute. Must say that this webinar is in conjunction with Marine Social Science Network here in Plymouth. There is a National Marine, or MARSOC Sci, the nicer way of saying it, so check them out. They check out hashtag MARSOC Sci, or just pop MARSOC Sci into Google. But here in Plymouth, actually, we are one of the chapters that meets face to face. So if there is anybody that's near to the southwest that's joined us, if you live near Plymouth, chuck your email address in the chat box if you'd like to, and then we'll add you onto our email list, and you'll find out when we meet up. We meet up online, but we also meet up in the pub as well, which is quite nice too. So on that note, I'm not going to do any more than welcome Pam, and let her kick off and tell us about her findings in her Citizen and the Sea PhD.
Thank you, Nick. What a very lovely introduction you've given me there. I'll just share my presentation, which we tested, so hopefully all okay. There we go. All okay? So thank you very much. So I'm Pamela Buchan, and I recently completed my PhD investigating marine citizenship at Exeter University. I'm going to run through some of the key findings in the webinar today and talk about how they change our understanding of marine citizenship. My research was funded by the Economic and Social Research Council on their interdisciplinary environment, energy and resilience pathway. So I'm going to begin by highlighting that there are some problems with marine citizenship. The main one being, what does it even mean? The Ocean Literacy Survey done by the Ocean Conservation Trust and DEFRA, published last month and talked about in the webinar on Tuesday this week, shows that only about 19% of people have heard of the term and only about maybe 4% understand what marine citizenship means. If we were in a room together, as in olden times, right now I'd ask you what you think it is and we'd discuss those answers, but we're not, so I'll have to make some assumptions instead. And the research has generally said that marine citizenship is about taking responsibility for human impacts on the ocean. And it's focused on what researchers call pro-environmental behaviours. So these are things like recycling, reducing your carbon footprint, making ethical consumer choices such as sustainably caught fish, switching from single-use plastics, taking care of what you flush, all things that environmentalists would support. And how do we achieve this? Well, we raise awareness of the problems and we educate people about the ocean, the human impacts and how to reduce them. And in the case of marine plastic pollution, we got really lucky and David Attenborough used his mighty influential power to send a message so clear that even the government took a few actions as well. But does it actually work? We've had a phasing out of some single-use plastics for sure. This has been a really positive step forwards. But when one thinks about the vast global array of carbon emissions and pollutants, mining, overfishing, noise pollution, aggregate extraction, and so on, how much change have our environmental education programs actually created? So these are some screenshots from the first couple of pages of a search for marine harm in the news in the past month. I'll give you a moment to have a look at those because I really think that they speak for themselves. We've still got quite a problem that we need to address. So back in 2016, I set out to find out all I could about marine citizenship in a single project to find out how to do better. And to do this, I did interdisciplinary research. So I looked at things like environmental psychology, environmental law, environmental science, human geography, green politics, sociology, probably some other things too, really focused on this concept of marine citizenship. Lots of past research is about what marine citizenship, marine scientists or practitioners think about marine citizenship, but I really wanted to listen to marine citizens themselves. And I used a technique called mixed methods, which means that I collected quantitative and qualitative data and I analysed it all together. I did an online survey and interviews, I did ethnographic observation of marine citizens doing marine citizenship so that I could get the best understanding possible. And though I investigated some theories that have previously been shown to be important for pro-environmental behaviours, I also left space for new ideas and information to arise. This was an inductive approach. And finally, I took an approach called post-normal science, which is a theory which applies to these wicked problems, which are complex, where you can't get an easy answer by just number crunching, and instead need to hear from different kinds of people with different values and experiences and knowledge in order to create new and effective solutions. To help me make sense of all the things I was investigating, I grouped them into three key themes of policy, people and place, making a sort of model of marine citizenship. People is about personality and identity and values. Place is about the ocean and what that thing is about it that makes us want to protect it. And policy is about this social and institutional setting which both marine citizens and marine citizenship work in. And through those themes, I was able to get a much more rounded view of what marine citizenship actually is. So I examined 4 research questions that were deliberately kept quite open to contribute to 3 key areas of understanding: citizenship, people and place. For citizenship, which includes this policy theme, I looked at who marine citizens are, what they do, what they call marine citizenship and why they think it's important, as well as barriers and enablers of marine citizenship. And I looked at their experiences of more formal marine decision making and their understanding of their rights to participate in marine decision making. For the people question, I looked at personality factors such as values, environmental identity, environmental attitudes, and emotions. And the values that I looked at are something called basic human values, which is this theory that all our values can be boiled down into essentially 10 basic values. And these are organized in this kind of circular way, blending into each other around this circumplex. And within it, there's also two poles, the pole of openness to change to conservation, and the pole of self-enhancement to self-transcendence. And the theory is that you can't prioritize values that are at both ends of the pole without having a kind of internal identity or value conflict. So these are sorts of opposites, and you expect when you do this test to look at people's values that they will not have a high score on both ends of either of the poles. And then my place question was all about understanding why the ocean. What is it about the ocean that makes marine citizens want to protect it? I looked at a range of ways that we relate to it, including geography, identity, dependence, attachment, and also the qualities of the sea that drive these relationships. And to answer these questions, as I said, I used mixed methods. So I identified active marine citizens to participate through 3 case studies. I had 2 marine groups, which were quite different in character. These were Coastwise North Devon and Nuki Marine Group. And I also recruited participants from the National Citizen Science Project Capturing Our Coast, or CoCoast, which was a project to map the baseline biodiversity on UK rocky shores and had membership right across the UK, inland and by the sea. So I followed an iterative process, with one stage informing the next. So the interviews influenced the survey development, and the survey analysis influenced this purposeful selection of interviewees, which was to find as much diversity amongst marine citizens as I could. So I did look at the patterns and trends, but I really wanted to look at these individual journeys of marine citizenship as well. And through this design, I followed this concept of marine citizenship across different sites of the case studies and the interviewees in a form of what's called multi-site ethnography. So as you might imagine, looking at all these different things, I got quite a lot of data and found out quite a lot of things. And this is my results in a slide. So it's going to stay up for a bit while I talk through some of these findings. So in the top left in the orange are my citizenship findings. As a group, marine citizens have a lot of similarity with volunteers. They're older, tends to be more women and more higher education than in the general population. But it's important to note that nonetheless there was quite a wide spread, so other kinds of people can be marine citizens. Also, knowledge is important. Marine citizens really valued local place-based knowledge, scientific knowledge, and their own learning. But they didn't describe knowledge as being the motivator of their marine citizenship. There was in fact a clear relationship between more general and marine citizenship. So marine citizenship is part of wider civic participation, rather than being a product of marine knowledge, more about valuing and feeling responsible towards the society and the environment. Marine citizens didn't only do these individual pro-environmental behaviours that I talked about at the beginning, but they worked hard in public, engaging people in the cause and trying to empower collective action. And marine groups and projects are a really important vehicle for access to marine citizenship opportunities, to knowledge exchange, and to building social capital. A key analysis that I did was about marine citizenship rights, because though that's been in the definition for a while, it hasn't really been looked at before. And this is the right to participate in the transformation of the human-ocean relationship. Not many marine citizens had participated in marine decision-making, and nearly nobody knew about the legislation which gives some of these rights, which is the Aarhus Convention, and that gives rights to access to information, public participation in decision-making, and access to justice in environmental matters. And I think that raises the question of, is this disempowering the marine and environmental citizens? In the top right are the blue people findings. These were a lot of quantitative analysis, so lots of numbers in this section, looking at relationships between people's personalities and marine citizenship. Environmental attitudes and self-transcendent values, that was in the bottom right corner of the diagram, benevolence and universalism. They were really common, and they've been previously shown to be important for pro-environmental behaviours. They were also positively associated with an intention towards the marine environment. But it was actually a different picture for how deeply engaged in marine citizenship people were. And rather than the self-transcendent values, it was the low conformity value and high stimulation value that were associated with taking deeper action. So not being afraid to be different and having an interest in the sea and wanting to learn about it were the kinds of things that were associated with going deeply into marine citizenship. Using the qualitative data, it was possible to connect all of those 10 basic human values to marine citizenship and the ocean, indicating that we could be doing more to reach people by tapping into different values. And marine citizenship was particularly influenced by environmental identity, the importance of which I'll come to shortly. A wonderful theme of emotion emerged in the qualitative data, which showed a deep love, passion, concern, and other feelings towards the ocean, which inspired an obligation to do something. And hearing this emotionality was really moving. And I argued it's a description of thalassophilia, this love for the sea, which takes us to the bottom left in the green, which is the place findings. And there are lots of relationships between marine citizens and the ocean. I found a marine-specific place attachment that was about the ocean as a whole type of place, and that was really positively associated with deeper marine citizenship. It's quite different from the academic understanding of place and attachment, which is normally about a particular location, such as your hometown. But I'm a prime example of this, having moved to Plymouth to be near the sea, even though I'd never visited it before. But this marine place attachment can be understood to be this thalassophilia in operation, and it seems to come from positive marine experiences rather than from knowledge or understanding. And then marine dependency for recreation, well-being and livelihood had the most influence on marine citizenship depth out of any of the variables that I looked at in the whole research project. Livelihood dependency was the strongest, but fewest people held that type. And these tended to be people who were in industries which were really related to a high quality, biodiverse marine environment. And then emergent through this qualitative data were the reasons why the sea is capable of creating these strong emotions and attachments in people. And I found when I've spoken about this in other groups that this really resonates with people. The three key qualities which stood out. These were the quality and health of the marine environment, the lack of boundaries and the challenge of the sea, and the sensory experiences that being in, on, or by the ocean provides. And marine citizens talked of the colour of the water and how the light plays on it, the rich sea life, which is interesting, healthy, and dynamic. And they spoke of the sense of freedom and adventure they feel when the sea calls to them, how it's ever-changing and full of promise and more out there. And they talked of the movement, being buffeted around by waves or submersed in the ocean completely. They felt passionate about the ocean as being healthy and how it should be separate to the harms of terrestrial human impacts. Experiencing this incredible four-dimensional environment has the power to attach humans and make us dependent upon it, which in turn promotes acts of deeper marine citizenship. So to summarise the key findings of the data so far, first, though certain kinds of people and personality traits are more common, potentially anyone can become a marine citizen. Second, the role of the ocean is key. The material and physical qualities of the ocean generate emotional attachment to the ocean, which in turn produces dependency upon it to fulfill certain needs. And in the case of marine citizens, this dependency is on a healthy ocean. After place dependency, an environmental identity is the most important factor for deeper marine citizenship, indicating that those who are really invested in participating in the transformation of the human-ocean relationship identify with and depend upon the ocean. And so is born a new theory that there is a marine identity, and that it's this marine identity which is the motivator for marine citizenship. So there is a social identity process theory in psychology, which when related to place absolutely fits this marine identity hypothesis and gives a theoretical explanation as to how marine dependency can drive marine citizenship. We're getting pretty academic and I'll talk through this theory. So social identity process theory has four key components: self-esteem, distinctiveness, continuity, and self-efficacy. For place to support identity, it must support these four components. So first is self-esteem, which is a primary component of social identity theories and is about feeling a coherent sense of self and having a positive self-evaluation. Place is incorporated into this through, for example, pride of place. Extending this to the ocean, there can be pride in the marine environment, particularly when it's stimulating and beautiful and healthy. Where activities take place at the sea, such as recreation, and there can be pride in doing so. And additionally, viewing oneself as a good citizen can also be a boost to self-esteem, directly connecting marine citizenship with identity processes. Next, distinctiveness is about distinguishing oneself from others. So to have a sense of being oneself, there has to be a way to determine other. And in my research, I found that having low conformity value was associated with doing deeper citizenship. And as a group, conformity was generally quite low. So being a marine person is distinctive, since many people aren't resident by or engaged with the ocean directly. And likewise, marine citizenship is still relatively uncommon and distinguishes people from other kinds of volunteering. So then continuity is about maintaining a sense of self over time, and there are two types. Place referent continuity is about the past and the present self making sense, and it sees people seeking out things that are familiar to them from their past. So for the ocean, this might be visiting the sea to promote replication of feelings and associations from the past, such as childhood seaside holidays, or association with rest and relaxation, where the ocean's been a break from life challenges. Culturally, we understand the sea as a place to get away to, and this may underlie seeking out the ocean for activities and creating marine dependency. Then place congruent continuity is about maintaining characteristics of place through life, which associate with identity. So for example, there's a theory called settlement identity, in which people identify with their hometown, which might be city or country. So a city or country identified person will seek out characteristics of that place if they then move around later in life. This translates really easily to the ocean, with people seeking out the ocean preferentially over other kinds of environment, which is what we saw in this marine place attachment. So finally is self-efficacy, which is about the environment supporting lifestyle and being effective when you're in a place. And this could be as simple as being the ocean is the place where you like to do the things you like to do. But it also connects directly to active marine citizenship. Environmental citizenship theories talk quite a lot about locus of control, which can be understood as a sort of scale of self-efficacy, the locus or the space within which you feel you can have an influence over things. So if all the other processes of your identity that I've discussed are dependent upon a healthy ocean, then maybe an unhealthy or threatened ocean challenges those identity processes and then specifically limits your self-efficacy, especially when those threats are outside of your locus of control, so outside of pro-environmental behaviours that you can do. How would you fix this? Well, you'd fix it with more marine citizenship. You would work to undo the damage and feel effective at the same time. And the more you identify with a healthy ocean, then the deeper you engage in marine citizenship to rectify the threat to your marine identity. So in this way, marine identity might turn out to be the key to bridging the gap between good intentions and active marine citizenship. And the next challenge is how we can better understand and operationalise this to create more active citizens. So to conclude, marine citizens really view marine citizenship as a collective and political act, not just this set of kind of private and individual pro-environmental behaviours. But literacy about marine citizenship rights is very low. Maybe ocean literacy can help with this in the future. Thalassophilia, the love of the sea, the qualities of the ocean make us feel really deeply and drives this specific marine place attachment and dependency. And environmental identity and place dependency are the most important factors for deeper marine citizenship. This evidence together points to a marine identity, which may drive deeper marine citizenship. So thank you very much for listening to a little overview of my PhD. You can, if you're interested and want to read 400 pages of academic text, you can find my full thesis at the Exeter University doctoral thesis repository, but also I have this summary report that's about 11 pages that is on ResearchGate and freely accessible. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pam. Brilliant. Every time I hear you speak, although we talk on a pretty regular basis, I have more and more questions. So I have some questions. If you guys in our attendees group have questions, please put them in the chat and we'll make sure that we get to them in a moment. We've also had some questions emailed in as well, so we'll get to those too. But just wanted to just give some examples really about what we do as the Ocean Conservation Trust in terms of operationalising marine citizenship or operationalising ocean literacy. So if I share my screen now, that's the end. We don't want the end. There's the beginning. Is that okay? Can I have a thumbs up? Yeah, I've got a wave. Brilliant. Oh, hang on. There we go. Sorry, should know how to do this by now. Brilliant. So, Ocean Conservation Trust. If you haven't heard of us before and you're wondering why we have a pink donut for a logo, that's the reason why. So we've been around since 1998 because we started as the National Marine Aquarium in Plymouth, which is still one of our initiatives. So our charity used to be called National Marine Aquarium, then a couple of years ago, to really kind of show all of the work that we do in terms of our habitat restoration and behaviour change programmes. We just did that slight change of name just to sort of really, really show the world exactly what we're all about. We're here to protect and restore the ocean, and we really focus on people. You know, we believe that to protect nature, you need to start with people. People cause the problems. So how can we use the kind of concepts, theories that Pam has spoken about to help people to connect with the ocean and perhaps do their own pro-ocean behaviours at home or within their business, school, the world, society at large. So me personally, I do a few different things. So I'm head of conservation education and engagement at the Ocean Conservation Trust, also the president of the European Marine Science Educators Association. I chair the Conservation Education Committee for IASA, part of the UK Ocean Literacy Working Group, which is supported by DEFRA, and then also one of the people that founded We Are Ocean. So really I am a marine citizen, I am an ocean literacy advocate, and yes, it's just my life really. So on our kind of marine citizenship or ocean literacy programme, so through the National Marine Aquarium, that's our conduit, that's how we get to people. 300,000 visitors a year come through our doors in normal years, and then our digital programmes as well reach thousands of people. And we were set up for education, conservation and research of the ocean. So our learning programme always started with the idea that if we could help people to discover and learn about the ocean, it would lead to them connecting with it and acting to protect. That was our kind of proposition right at the beginning. And moving forward a few years and understanding a little bit more about humans, we added in experience and participate, because we realised that actually if people go to the sea, if they experience something, that seemed to be the sort of the full pathway to potentially get people to be more likely to change their behaviour. So this is all running along nicely, aren't we? Great. And then I think it was 2017 or maybe it's 2016, I met Pam after Plymouth went a bit mad because of the National Marine Park. You may have seen on the TV or online that Plymouth is starting to go through the process of designating Plymouth Sound, the water body in front of the city of Plymouth, as the UK's first national marine park. So there was lots of activity around that, lots of meetings, and I met Pam. And she said, hey, I've seen your pathway, have a think about this. Is it really discovery and learning that is the thing that gets you towards your goal of changing people's behaviour? Or is it actually the kick-off point for people is experiencing the ocean and having no kind of potential sort of educational, formal input whatsoever? It's those experiences, it's putting your feet in, it's going rock crawling as a child. And I was like, oh God, yeah. And really since then we've really reviewed and changed our programme. I've put that other sort of document there for you to take a note of if you haven't seen it before. Around about the same time, this brilliant piece of work came out, supported by Colusa Foundation, which is all about communicating about the ocean, and how we tended to have framed it in a kind of science way, and in fact that isn't what speaks to many people. You know, that so these sort of two things happened at the same time. So in the end, we changed our pathway. So from Pam's research, the block there in black, I don't really like reading from PowerPoints, but I will read it because it really speaks to us. The marine citizenship journey begins with experience, and this is most powerful and it stems from direct contact with the ocean. Education and knowledge can inform citizenship choices. Policy and procedure can facilitate or exclude, but the pull of the tide is the first step, and that's us, and that's what we're all about. So our new pathway is, yeah, we put experience and participation first, which hopefully then might, in some individuals, not everybody, lead to a desire to discover and learn. And those two factors added together is perhaps likely to help somebody think about their own individual actions and connect with the ocean and act to protect. And this can happen sort of in one-off interventions, somebody visiting the aquarium once. But I think what our evaluation shows is that people that interact with us more, so our regular visitors, people that are on our Ocean Squad programs, those that come snorkeling with us and do more longer term activities with us, potentially get more of the benefit. So I'll talk about our evaluation in a moment. Oh yeah, and then, you know, we could connect somebody with the issue of plastic pollution, perhaps, or climate change, through one type of intervention that we might do with them, and then they kind of get back through the cycle so that they build up their knowledge base, their experience base, and an understanding of the issues facing the ocean and perhaps what they can help. So there we go. I'll say it, I'll put it there again. Encouraging a physical and emotional connection with the ocean. Knowledge is important, but connectedness to nature is the thing. So here are some lovely photos of how we are a hands-on type organisation, really. So we take people snorkeling, we go rock pooling, we sit on the floor with people. As you can see, the three pictures at the bottom there are all that kind of not the sort of the standard image that you might think of as a scientist. You know, all three people there, Lizzie, Stu and Lottie, they're all scientists. They're all marine biologists, but they are trained to really think about everything about their personality, to help people to connect with the facts as well as the sort of the emotions to do with the ocean, as Pam was talking about. What we have found is definitely there's a huge push from people wanting to know how they can help. That really did, as Pam was talking about, coincide with the Attenborough effect, you know, the blue planet effect. People ask us, how can I help? What can I do? And, you know, I've worked in this field for 16 years, and that didn't used to happen. People didn't really understand that there was the ocean was becoming unhealthy, so that they didn't know that they needed to help. So this is brilliant. Through these kind of experiential programs that we curate, we're helping people to find the words to be able to ask how they can help in their own way. And then it was interesting that Pam put up the images of all of the terrible things happening to the ocean. We've chosen to go down an ocean optimistic route in our comms and in how we communicate with people. We, through the aquarium, quite often speak with people who are here on holiday. They're here, they're coming to a tourist attraction. They're not coming because they're a marine citizen or they're ocean literate. They're coming because they've got kids and they need to do something for the day. So we have to be really careful that we're not throwing doom and gloom at people all the time, and there is hope moving forward. So we've really kind of thought about that in how we frame pro-ocean behaviours. So trying to be inspiring and ocean optimistic. Hashtag hell doesn't sell. I like that one. Put that one in there. And then, yeah, just some more lovely photos, really, of people doing our hands-on experiential beach cleaning, high-fiving stuff. So that's the ethos that we're trying to build around our programme. Positivity, hands-on, people, diverse representation. We're really looking at our inclusivity and diversity around our programmes and working with our own internal diversity and inclusion working group to really make sure that we are ensuring that everyone has the chance to engage with the ocean and potentially become a marine citizen, whatever their background and whatever their previous experience with the ocean. And then evaluation, we haven't particularly changed our evaluation protocol since changing our pathway, but Pam and I definitely have conversations moving forward to come about how we can potentially use some of her work to really revolutionise how we evaluate our outcomes. So this is a very, very sort of boiled down image of what we're looking to evaluate at the moment. On the left-hand side, the attitudes and values, enjoyment, inspiration, creativity, the words in bold basically are generic learning outcomes. I'm not sure if you may have heard of those. So they were developed by the Museums and Libraries Archive Council. Now they're looked after by the Arts Council, so you can look that up there. But any organisation, museum, aquarium, zoo, it's a really great evaluation tool. You take the generic learning outcomes and you come up with your own individual ones for your organisation. So for examples, in our attitudes and values, when we're looking at the experience and participate part of our programme, what we're looking for is to help people feel that they've learnt something and it was positive, and that science and scientists are cool, that they're surprised by the variety of marine life. And we can do different ways of evaluating that, whether it's a survey monkey or fill in a form or short interviews. Knowledge and understanding, broadening knowledge of the marine environment and associated species, deeper understanding of the relationship between myself and the seas, and then moving down skills, activity, behaviour and progression. That's the real difficult one for us to review sort of longer term. So again, this research that Pam's done, it's definitely a question that I pose to her. How can we really find out how our programmes reach people and whether they change their behaviour in the longer term. We've also, following Pam's research, started to look a little bit more about how we might evaluate well-being as well. So this toolkit here, it is a really simple way that you can find out how somebody is feeling during an activity. And yeah, we only started it this summer, but we kind of recognised that actually by evaluating our pathway, perhaps we weren't also finding out about the health and well-being benefits of what we do as well. And that's a whole, obviously, another area really, but that is definitely something that we want to be looking at as well. So we'll keep you informed about results from that. So really, overall, what we're trying to deliver is a fun, experiential, people-led, science-focused programme that is fully evaluated and fully researched, but I can't tell you how important we have found the work that Pam has done in helping us to move forward with our Marine Citizenship Ocean Literacy programme to save the oceans, man. Woo! So I think that was it. Yes, that's me. If you want to contact me, there's MC We Are Ocean and Ocean Conservation emails as well. So I'm going to stop sharing because I've seen in the corner of my eye we're getting questions popping through. Claire, were you gonna lead questions, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, no, I'll lead.
Yeah,
just
all
put
right.
it into gallery view, then you can answer as well.
Cool.
Great. So yeah, we've had a few written in and a few emailed ahead of time. So we had a great one during the webinar from Flossie. Pam just wondered what you'll be working on next.
Thanks, Flossie. Yeah, so I've just finished, as in like a month ago. So I'm still working out some of the next steps. I'm doing bits and bobs of work here, and I'm writing papers because I need to get all of this lovely thesis stuff out into the academic world and in articles. But I'm really hoping that I can do some more research on the marine identity, because this came out sort of theoretically from the data that I had. I wasn't expecting to find it or expecting to, I'm a marine biologist originally, so to stumble upon this important psychological theories, you know, it's been a big learning curve for me. So I'd really like to find out how we can characterize marine identity, how marine identity looks differently around the world and in different circumstances. So I suspect that you can probably have lots of different kinds of marine identity that may as easily be associated with extractive or harmful ocean practices as with conservation or biodiversity focused practices. So understanding what marine identity can look like, understanding what the pathways are to marine identity and how maybe that can be measured, and then looking at testing the theory of does the marine identity is that the driver of deeper marine citizenship? Because then we can, if we have this kind of complete pathway that's tested and we know that that works, then we can look at interventions that will help produce that, and it could be lots of different things. So it's way too early to speculate on what might be the most effective ways to create marine citizens. But yeah, so that's what I really want to do. I'm going to maybe put in some bids for research money to do some of that, but early days yet, having only just finished. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Another one for Pam, and a question I really liked actually. So with the marine identity theory, someone asked, can it happen quickly, or is a long-term relationship with the ocean needed?
Oh, that is a really good question. I'll add that to my list of things to find out. I don't know. And I mean, it's difficult because I have my own personal experiences, which led me to be a thalassophile and to want to live by the sea and do everything about the sea. And I grew up in the Peak District, so I have no idea where that came from or how quickly it came. It didn't come from going up by the sea. And so there's lots of people that grow up by the sea who don't feel this way about the sea. It's just there and it's boring for them because it's always there. So I don't know. And I think it's probably varies. There's probably different kind of lengths of time. But I'm really interested as well in how you can reach adults, because it's not easy, but it's easier to reach young people because they're in a captive audience at school and on school trips and in family groups and things like that. So to reach them is, they're more accessible. But adults, who are often they're the ones who can make the change right now rather than the future generation, it's much more difficult, I think, to understand how you can reach them. So if it's something that can be profound, I mean, some of the data that I got actually did indicate from those who were part of their main citizenship was about engaging the public and creating experiences for the public. They talked about the quite profound reactions that people that they worked with or took on their boat trips or whatever, that they had about the sea and the problems with the sea. But it's very difficult then to evaluate that because they go away. Did they do anything? You don't necessarily know. People can feel very enthusiastic at the time and really overwhelmed, and then they go back to their normal lives and they're not on holiday anymore, and maybe it goes on the back burner. So there's loads to look around there. I hope that it's something that could be done more quickly than requiring like a lifetime, because that way we can be better, quicker in terms of what we're doing for the marine environment. So it's another question. Thank you.
Great answer. And I think this is a good question for both of you because you both have experience in this. Probably start with Nick, but it is, are there any marine citizenship stories that you've heard that you've found really surprising or you've found quite unexpected?
Loads. To try and keep it sort of confidential. So I was talking to a group of people not long ago, actually, about so they were a group of people that were interested in marine stuff, and my question to them is what's led you to be here in this group talking about ocean now? And went round the circle, and they all had childhood experiences of living by the sea, going in the sea, a strong kind of mentor, whether it's a parent or grandparent or teacher. So all these lovely stories. But there was one person who, and this is only one data point, but it's interesting, who had never seen the sea until she was 20, but her love for it came from playing a wee computer game, like a diving game. And I was just like, oh God, because one of the sort of the things about all of this is that if it is physical experience, how can we get everyone to have that? And then, where does digital come in, I suppose? So that was a really interesting one. I was like, ooh, you're different. you didn't see the sea when you were a child, and you haven't got these childhood memories. So yeah, that was an interesting one from my side of things.
Great. And Pam, did you find anything in your research?
I mean, that is a difficult one. Can I just ask, was the game Endless Ocean? Not to put a plug, but when I played Endless Ocean a few years ago, having not dived in years, I was like, oh, it's just like diving.
I don't know what it was, but it was a wee diving, swimming under the sea game. Yeah.
It's a great game. I think, different. I'm thinking about what Nick's just said as well, and about the question. So I obviously spoke to quite a lot of different people to get their different journeys, and there are definitely like commonalities. So the things that Nick said, having somebody, this kind of social thing around learning is really important. I haven't gone into it much in my talk, but it is something, you know, we don't live in isolation. Identity is about who we are in relation to other people. So the kind of social bit and public engagement and politics, all those things have this important social element. So there were lots of different things around that and around upbringing and so on. I can't think of a really stunning one, but what was interesting for me was that people did come into it at different times. So there were people who talked about, oh, I was always in the water and I grew up and these things and love the associations. But there are also people who were like, I never thought twice and I worked in this really extractive job and then one day I went diving and saw sea creatures and was like, wow, this is actually really profound. And then other people would be like, they saw fishing wire in a bird's nest and thought, hang on a minute, this isn't right. So there's often that sort of jarring. I'm trying to think if there was something, because there was such a big range, and obviously likewise confidentiality, I don't want to say anything that might necessarily identify someone. That's not a very good answer, is it?
No, it's a great answer. No, it's really good. It's interesting that it's such a mixture, that there is that. Sorry, Nick, what were you going to say?
Well, Pam just saying there about seeing creatures. So from the DEFRA survey that I mentioned, so that was to 8,440 people in England and Wales, asked 50 questions looking at the different dimensions of ocean literacy. One of the questions was, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was sort of, why is the sea important? And most people said because it's a home for animals. And obviously being based here in an aquarium, we find that the animal stories are it's such a massive hook for people. Quite frankly, if we want to advertise something that we're doing, if we put a picture of Friday our turtle up there or a short video, people just love him. And so I was just wondering, was there anything about animals and the love of animals? Did that come through, or was it again just sort of a thread similar to the others?
In my research, definitely. I think it's part of that excitement, but it wasn't just that, because it was also this more physical stuff around the sea, which I think is that's why the sea is so powerful. And I'm also quite interested in whether other environments can create these kinds of attachments, or whether it's something that's unique to the sea, because it's so like big and encompassing, and that it can be so many things at the same time, different and stimulating and calming and exhilarating, and interesting and beautiful and threatening and all kinds of things. So I can't think, but I'm probably biased because I love the sea, but I can't think of another kind of environment that maybe forests, maybe like huge forests would have some of that constant sort of change and interesting things. But the sea life is absolutely there, and it is fascinating. Our kids were learning to snorkel yesterday. I finally got them to let go of the board and use a fin and have a little go with the snorkeling, and they loved it once they were finally, because they're feeling a bit anxious. But then just because as soon as you go underneath, it's just so different. It's just wonderful. I took this picture of I'm going off on a tangent here, but I took this picture of this compass jellyfish a couple of days ago, which was up at the surface so that you can see the reflection in the top of the surface, and it's like this incredible barrier, and we're so used to looking down. But they're all looking up, and all this life that lives under there, and it's just so beautiful and interesting. So the animals is definitely a thing. And I was thinking, what I wanted to respond to what you were saying before, Nick, about what an experience of the ocean means. That's a really important question. So in my research, I had people where it was an aquarium, it was being an aquarium, it wasn't being in the sea or at the sea. And there were the people who talk about documentaries. They grew up watching documentaries in a city, inland, not necessarily going to the sea. I think that's another question about what does experience mean? And there is research that shows things like if you have a beautiful sea picture, like my background, as you're, on your wall, and you look at it, it makes you feel calmer in terms of well-being. It has an impact, even if you're not at the sea. So that would be another thing that's really interesting, because it might be that we can create these sorts of marine identities more vicariously than we think or might think, and that will be a quicker and more effective way that people could be kind of brought into the feeling emotions about the sea. So yes, interesting to see where we go.
Great, no, fantastic answer. One question that came through via email was, what credentials do I need to join Mars Topside? Do I need to work in the industry?
Do you want to do that,
Either
Nick?
of
You need nothing. Yeah, just I was going to say you just need to be friendly, but actually you don't even need to be friendly. Whatever, just be yourself. And I think, you know, obviously an interest in the ocean is good because that's what we talk about. An interest in social science is also good because that's what we talk about. But really, yeah, it's really for anyone. And sort of the people that join us, we've got sailors and marine social scientists and people that work at aquariums and academics and industry, the Plymouth City Council. Yeah, so it's just, and it's very sort of, there's normally a formal bit where, not even formal, but a bit we have a subject that we might talk around, and then the rest is just a chat, really, isn't it?
It kind of came from Nick and I talking and going, oh, it's really good to talk about all this stuff. Let's talk about, let's create something. So we did, and a Marine Social Science Network, which was happening nationally, was a really great thing to be able to hook onto. So we sort of became, we said, can we sort of be like a branch or something? And Dr. McKinley, who leads on that, was like, yeah, of course, that's great. So it was always meant to be very informal. So as Nick said, we've got people from all kinds of different backgrounds, but the interest is about this human-ocean relationship. And I guess probably wanting it to be healthy, but I don't know. I've never actually quizzed all of our members on whether that's their goal or not. For people who are interested in how we engage with the sea.
Great, thank you. That's just got one last question, and I think it leads quite nicely into what Nick's going to present at the end of the webinar. But it is, how can I get involved with Ocean Conservation Trust's outreach work?
Well, that's cool. That's a broad that's a broad question. Obviously participate, go onto our website. There's opportunities there, National Marine Aquarium, snorkeling, beach cleans, all that sort of stuff. So if from that side of things, head over there. Volunteering, we have a brilliant volunteer program. Depending on your age, you might want to do one of our Ocean Squad programs, although I think they're fully booked for the year now. Or obviously work for us. No jobs around at the moment, but we are constantly expanding, constantly striving to push what we're up to. So opportunities definitely in the future, if that's help. Or just send me an email, and I'll help. Cool. Okay. Right. I'm gonna wrap up now because it's getting even warmer in my office. So just one final quick thing. We've got to do it. A quick plug for our Think Ocean Challenge. Come on. Oh, there it is. There we go. Yeah. So how can we get more and more people to think about the ocean in their daily lives? And maybe think about how they might change their behaviour to be a bit more pro-ocean. We've tried to come up with something really fun, really simple that anybody can do if they've got access to the internet. So we've come up with our hashtag Think Ocean Challenge, and it's an 8-question personality quiz. And if you do it, at the end, you'll get your shoal. So you'll either be in the heart, head, hands, or new starter shoal. And then following that, if you give us your email address, we'll send you some tips that kind of fit with how you connect with the ocean, and how you might want to do those things in your daily life to look after it. Obviously, there is this kind of balance between the individual doing things to help protect the ocean and governments, businesses. But actually, governments, businesses are run by individuals. So if we can help, the top people, the Richard Bransons of the world, although I think he is quite marine citizenship, he does sort of like the ocean, I think, doesn't he? If we can get everybody to think about the ocean in their daily lives, whatever they do, we hopefully might sort of be able to push that movement a little bit further. So there is the sort of science behind this, is the different sort of learning styles that people have. Which is why we've kind of split head, heart, hands, and new starter. And also this sort of behaviour change work around feeling like you're part of a movement and not sort of doing it as an individual. That can be something that prevents people from changing their behaviour because they just think, what's the point? So yeah, it's our new campaign, Think Ocean Challenge. Give it a go and see what shoal you are in. And there we go. I'll stop sharing. And I'd like to say a big thanks to Pam for taking time out to do this. Thanks, Claire, for organising it. Round of applause. Woo! And hopefully we'll see you again when it's not so hot for another webinar on a similar topic. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.